Good day, everyone. Welcome to the much-awaited pilot episode of our talk show, By Women, For Women, About Women. This is me, Hannah Papasin.
And I, Kim Jamelo.
And I'm Yasmin Pascual Dormido.
For Femme
Femme
Fatale.
Fatale.
Before we start with today's episode, I would like to thank the generosity of the owner of this beautiful flower shop. Disclaimer lang ha, ang among sponsor for the venue is an old college friend, classmate ko siya sa University of St. Lasal, Miss Pao Lopez, and she owns Flower Power. Thank you, Flower Power. And actually behind Miss Pao, a very formidable woman, and I hope to have her as guest one day.
Yeah, she's also a femme fatale.
Yeah, she's also a femme fatale.
And a
Behind her,
survivor.
madam, magiging salamat sa nagatamod sa Munsubong, iyang staff. Thank you very much, ma'am and sir, for your generosity. Okay, our episode for today is about survival. Okay. Kahit hindi naman siguro lipod sa tanan nga, with me, two very beautiful women, we have Kim Jamelo here, and pwede ka matawag na environmental youth advocate.
Youth advocate.
Youth
right?
advocate. Okay, and with me is, of course, the one and only, the Yasmin Pascual Dormido. Wala na yan sa iban nga maklaim nga, sorry, ma-offend na ng iban, pero for me, she's the best journalist in Negros Occidental, bar none. And hindi ko ni siya wala ko na ginambal just because she's one of my best friends. Ginambal ko gina siya kay truly, I've worked with her. Combined years na good of experience is 50 years now.
I think because Hannah and I have been together in college, pero we went to separate schools.
Yes.
You SLS siya, you know Arco, but we graduated
In the same year.
Yeah, in the same year.
And
Mas-
we covered the same beat practically.
Oo.
Pero again, si Yasmin has a lot more experience sa akin when it comes to, you know, kaya nag-academe ko dayon, no? After my 10 years as a journalist, nag-academe ko dayon. But she's, of course, siya academe naman siya subong. But since our theme for today is about survival, all of us here, especially after the pandemic, can you still remember kung diin ka mo sang December 2019 when gindeclare sa local, national news and international news nga may outbreak sang novel coronavirus sa Wuhan, China. Dumduman mo kung diin ka.
I was in the newsroom.
You were in the newsroom. Ikaw?
I lived in the
Ako,
newsroom.
I was undergo ko sa ginatawag nga quarter life crisis.
Quarter life.
Quarter life. Ubin ka pa gani, may quarter life.
25. Mamalog 25.
Nag-crisis ka sa 24?
May existential crisis na siya, hala. Okay. I was in my father's restaurant. Sponsored ng mga galiting things, native food. Okay. I was in my father's restaurant and we were watching CNN. And then, doon ka wala man lang to, kay pila pa lang itong cases at that time.
Yeah.
And it hasn't crossed borders yet. So pagkita ko, I can't remember. It was, I think, December 14, 2019. And everybody was already preparing for, you know, the holiday rush because, you know, naman in the Philippines, we celebrate Christmas in September pa lang. Pagka-bare months, may
August
ano
na
pa lang.
gani.
August na lang. So, everybody was rushing. And then, there was this, sort of, hindi, mato siya ganit major nga balita pa at that time.
It was just one of those in the headlines. I
Yeah,
remember,
one of those in the
Well, I
headlines.
was always in the newsroom. We were in the newsroom, tapos nag-break siya, di ba, sa cable TV.
Yeah.
And we were like, hala, di ba? I mean, it felt surreal na tuod na, di ba?
Yeah.
And then, you were like, well, so, sige, gaano ka man nga, ay, di pa man na diguro kalabot sa Pilipinas, or kabay pa, hindi lang, di ba kalabot sa aton. But you know that ara na siya.
Yeah.
And then you, as a journalist, you feel that it's part of your obligation to tell people, to remind them na may novel corona, di ba? Because people, wala pa tigaman ng tao.
Wala, no,
Every
nothing.
day, we made it a point that whenever we go to the health beat, di ba, province or sa city, we'd have updates of the novel corona before, di ba? NCOV pa to siya.
NCOV pa
Before
to siya.
it became
Yeah.
COVID. But it seemed like nobody was paying attention.
True.
Diba? Kahit ano lang na guro daw. Ano ba lang? I mean, it's not really that alarming or something. Well,
Which is a good thing, again, mention mo na, because all of us were really caught by surprise.
Yeah.
Now, more than a year later, the novel coronavirus that Yasmin mentioned, nga abi naton, doon sa wala lang, it shut down businesses.
Right.
Yeah.
It killed millions all over the world.
Millions
It
of workers.
Displaced millions of workers. And then, of course, there were already stories of people getting depressed,
Right.
Yeah.
People losing their jobs. People affecting their lives.
Ginago
And
po.
there's a major shift. A really major shift kay in everything, especially economics, politics. People now didn't know where to go because mangayo ka. Ang government natin, for example, want to seek help from the US, pero paano ka makasik help sa US? Kaya US affected man.
Ang US hindi makabalo
Okay, so speaking of that, the best thing nga aton nga na-notice is people manage to survive.
Yeah. I think it's
Okay.
human nature. It's instinct.
And speaking of survival, mayara kita sa laing nga layers of struggle. And one here beside me, this woman beside me, also struggled with another kind of another kind of crisis, the employment crisis. Can you tell our audience about it?
Oo, bonggang-bongga nga crisis. While everybody was so down because of the pandemic, we at ABS-CBN were like, I think triple siguro ang pagka-down. I mean, we were just, to the ground or even lower, diba? During that time, because 2016, 2017, it has been there, hovering. Though it's like a bangungot.
Yeah.
Na
May threat na.
Yeah, it was there, it was imminent, and everybody knew. We were all realistic about it. I mean, but well, because we loved what we were doing, and we knew that we had this responsibility to keep going, diba? I mean, if we stopped, or if, diba, nagpapirdi kami sa emotional namon nga state, ang psychological and stuff, we wouldn't have served in the front lines with the rest of the frontliners amid the pandemic. We were always there. I was always there, di ba?
Yeah,
from
of course.
From day one, when the first
can remember
enhanced
that.
community quarantine was implemented in Bacolod City, and even when, during the caucus, even before, di ba, it was declared, I was there.
Yeah.
I was there during the
Nadumdum ako
caucus.
kita.
And I did an FB Live. That was my very first report on FB. I did an FB Live while they were having a break.
Dumdum ako sa Capitol.
Right, at the Capitol, when the governor declared that they're going to implement the very first lockdown
Yes.
in Negros Occidental. Then Bacolod followed suit up later. But it was
ECQ
real,
na
diba?
to.
It was
Yeah.
ECQ. It was the first ECQ. And nagkaran-karan ang tanan, including us. I mean, sa tanan nga kadamos na naagyan kung nga krisishan, na-learn ko na gid nga mangin kalmado kung nagapanik ang tanan. Pero that time, although it was not obvious sa akon sagwa, no? Pero in my mind, I was thinking, how can I serve as a frontliner when my home is not settled?
Yes.
Diba? Wala ka binlan. Because I had my mother, who is a senior citizen. I had 2 kids who were minors. Well, I have my husband, of course, but laingid ako ng nanay na plastar niya ang iabalay, di ba? And then, inabalang, the risk of me having to go out, sir, tapos basi ma-infect ko, dalon ko sa balay ko. And then ano pa, we were counting the days, the months, nga mas mahusgahan ng ABS-CBN. Will the
Yeah.
franchise be renewed? Will we have our
May
jobs?
hearing pa.
Mahiring pa, di ba? And ang moral ng tao, I mean, hindi mo ma-deny ang moral ng empleyado, apektado ka tama eh, di ba? You had the pandemic, then you had this employment crisis, di ba? If you were in our shoes, would have you, di ba? Would have you managed to keep doing
What we are doing.
what you should, di ba?
Mm,
What
yeah.
you should be doing when kabalo ka, it's just a matter of time. The shutdown will take place. We all knew it was going to take place.
Yeah.
Galing, syempre, sino ba lang mga, ready na ako, madula ang kubra, di ba? Hindi
Yes.
naman. But it was difficult is an understatement, Han. If you are to ask me, like for example, while nag-edit ka mo para sa TV Patrol Negros at 5 p.m., crunch time, ha? Gulpi lang madakpan mo, editor mo, gatanga siya. Or gatulo, iyaluha.
Yeah.
Diba?
God.
I mean, and then, ano ko maduit ko siya, hibi? Hindi, di ba? Kung basta, tama na, nakaroon naman tayo, hibi, alas 5, at tapos na kami TV Patrol pa. I mean, but that was the daily scenario. And then pag lunch break, because we were not allowed, syempre, di ba, protocols, hindi ka magwa. Makita na kami, yung from kis agakaon ka tulo aluha, or kami ka briefing, di ba? And then we would ask each other, what are your plans? Wala kami plans. Paano ka maghimo plans? Kaya may pandemic, di ba?
Yes.
I mean,
Hindi ka ka-distress.
di ba? Hindi ka man ka-distress. When you go home, you don't actually discuss it with your family. Why? Because you don't want them, kabalo ka nga mas, hindi sila handa sa amuna mo, di ba? And then, of course, you wouldn't want to do something that will trigger an emotional breakdown on your part because basi maapektuhan ka man, di ba? Hindi ka na makafunction. But that's it eh. You realize that when you're in a crisis, ang pagkatao, ang instinct mo, di ba? Mambas mo, paano kayo, day? May ka da, di ba? Paano ta? Yeah? So you go to, we had sleepless nights. Until now, hindi kaya katulog diretsahan. We'd wake up 1 a.m., 2:30, 3
Yeah.
o'clock. Araw na
I get
siya.
that.
And then bugtaw ka na, kaya pagka 4 a.m. ka bugtaw, hindi man kayo normally, ilang taon ba naman balita. You go to work. You work. And when you're there, you forget about everything. You just work. Because kabalaka, the quality of your work matters. People are waiting, di ba? If you stop, di amano niyo sila. Pwede blam baka, excuse me, emotionally attached ko bala suwong, di ba?
Pause, anay.
Di ba? Tama nanay. Pero that's it. You just have to keep going, di ba? I mean,
Yeah.
you have, sa kabuhay sa tao, may problema ka or hamungaya ka. You always have options eh, di ba? Kung may crisis ka, do you get going? Mapaperde ka? Or batuan mo? Di ba?
True.
So it wasn't easy. Never easy. Until now, ang sakit ara sa sulod, di ba? Pero ang mga gani, when life knocks you down real hard, that's when the real character of the person comes out.
Importante, wala na nga ngayon.
Ay, oo naman. Dignity of work, diba? I mean, yeah, that's...
Anyway,
Correct.
let's go sa kay Kim. Kim, you're very young.
Yes.
Pero nag-existential crisis
Nakibot ko to sa 24? 24, 25?
I mean, nagka-midlife crisis. Hindi mo
Quarter
midlife,
life.
Quarter life.
Quarter life? May mo nagali?
Ngara na.
Subongga, ano na ako
Okay,
no,
sige.
eh.
Go, can you share ang iyong experience?
Usually, kung ihambal ko na sa people, they would be very shocked. It's not usual, di ba? Especially sa inyong generation, to hear about someone as young as 23, 24, 25, nga quote-unquote quarter life crisis. Pero I had that. And sa nga nga time, 2019, I was on the verge on deciding kung ma-quit ko sang akon nga job, akong day job, and focus on my schooling. And then, i-manage ko pa kung ma-freelance ko. Because at that time, wala yasang may nag-encourage ako nga mag-quit and pursue freelancing or whatever. Kaya, di ba, it was a very essential time nga dapat may job ko
Trabaho.
and ano. So, amo na, nag-decide ko that time to quit and pursue my schooling. At the same time, earn my money through freelancing. So, ito siya ako nga crisis kaya that time. And of course, it affected me as well as a person.
How did you cope? Imaginable may plans ka.
Yes.
Gusto ka mag-travel.
Yes.
Then you quit your job.
Yes.
And then this happened. Then novel coronavirus happened.
Yes.
I mean, is there any other worse time for the breakout? Sa pagsagap sa outbreak na to, you were making, Kim Jamelo is making all of these plans and then all of a sudden,
Wala.
so how did you manage?
Siguro ako, kumbaga, turning point was when gin-announce na nila ang lockdown. Because confined ka sa imo, four corners of the room, and then you just suddenly realize nga, you know, hindi ka ang center sa kalibutan. Other people are going through so much more. So, syempre, wala ko man gina-devalue nung gina-feel ko. But at that time, you really have to move. Kaya ang crisis, kumbaga, I realized na it's either going to make you a better person or you're going to be stuck where you are.
Right.
And then, eventually, ma-crumble down ka. So, you have to really decide for yourself. Amo na nga ako nga, kumbaga, realization sa amo to nga time. Ang ako, the way I coped, siguro, I had to just push through, keep myself busy, and at the same time, sometimes relax ko dahil I don't know, mapa-manicure ko dahil whatever.
Para ka-cope.
Oo, para ka-cope, kumbaga. So, kumbaga siya ako nga,
Ang sa ako nga part you remember nga at that time, ang DNX was just starting.
Oo, di ba? Sa
Oo,
pandemic.
ang, syempre, baby na siya sa ako nga ex-boyfriend. Si Julius. And, you know, doon matamat naman ka pa sa ka. And we were actually gaining na, that was already the 6th month na siya kag na-break yung coronavirus. Nga issue. The Next was already celebrating its 6th
Correct.
month at the
Oo,
time
oo.
because we launched August
I remember.
2019. And then December 2019 ang outbreak. So siling naman, we never knew that it's going to be that bad. And then of course, ang source of income sa nga paper, wala ka na sa source of income because ang source of income are also closing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? So, what are we going to do? Amo na siya because DNX has currently 8 siya we're a small outfit, no? So, may 8 kami ka workers. But you know na what, you're not just talking, this is what my ex-boyfriend is always saying. It's not just 8 individuals. It's 8 families.
Correct.
Because kada na sa ila, may ilan silang mga family nga, there are mouths to feed, no? So, we forged on, and you know what happened naman sa DNX, di ba? There were a lot of bashings, there were a lot of criticisms about the way we handled certain stories, but we forged on, and just like what, siguro makarelate ko sa imo, men, because ang natabo was, we were the only ones that covered si Rodney ang akon nga crew subong kag si Sir Banjo Nolan. By the way, ang aton nga TV unit head subong nag-handle sang Femme Fatale si Sir Banjo Nolan, and then ang aton nga part-time photographer si Rodney is also my student sa Lasal sa Mascom. They were the ones that went with Julius and covered areas that other outfits were not able to cover.
Right.
So they were crossing borders, literally crossing borders. Ga-cross sila sa Oriental, sa mga areas that even local government was not able to reach. And so we felt nga, if we are just going to let the pandemic affect the way we function, just like what you said, there's people waiting. Okay, there's people waiting for us to serve them. So maski ako, I'm immunocompromised. Okay, si ex-boyfriend ko is also immunocompromised.
Patas.
Patas. So, but sininamon, kagaw, ano mo na naman? Kagaw lang na ya. DNX kami ya. Kalon pala yapon. And we are quite aware, no? And I'm really very proud sa kay Rodney in particular. Nga isog saya. Mas isog pa sa mga veterano. And with the thought in mind nga, if we are just going to get our fear get to us, how will we function?
Correct.
Siyempre, the fear is always there. Magwa ka, makadto ka sa mga, nagkakadto kami sa mga areas nga considered na lang ang mga hotspots. We already went, especially ang crew, no? They already went there. And then, ako siyempre, nagagwa man ko everyday and get to mingle with all of these people. Nagka-cover ko yung City Hall. And if you're just going to let the fear seize you, you will not be able to function.
Correct.
And at the back of your mind, you're always going to say, kabalo ka ako, gapuli ko yung daan sa amutong time, gapuli ko sa parents ko. And parents ko are also immunocompromised because they are already senior citizens. Pero siling ko, honestly, wala akong nakabatsa kulba.
Ako,
Honestly, I've never felt the fear.
not the fear, concern.
Concern siguro for others, pero
Yeah,
for
hindi,
me,
for me, okay lang po.
Wala.
Ang concern ko for me is, ang tao nga ma-expose akon, sa balay
Correct.
especially. Like,
Yeah.
when I go, ako ya ang career, gidya mo, wala naman kadudududay. I mean, whenever an area in
Yeah,
Bacolod was
of
locked down,
course.
I was always there. I
Of
mean,
course, yes.
naga-fumigate or ara, man ko, todo yung naman sa tama,
Yeah.
naginising mo ya daw ka. Kasi mo ko, ano na ginapangimo ko? But well, if you are a journalist, how can you accurately report if you're not there?
Yes,
Diba?
true.
I mean, it's the same as deceiving your viewers or your listeners or whoever reads your story. I mean, how can you give them exactly what they need to know if ara mo lang ko sa balay? Pwede mo ka monitor.
Yeah, we can actually.
Oo, pwede
And
man lang
I
ko yung
think-
kahulat press release sa
I think that is
CHO,
I think that is
PHO.
something that the audience also has to understand that working journalists
Oh.
we are also considered non-medical frontliners, di ba?
Yeah, oh.
Mainly because we are on the front lines. In fact, nadumduman ko March 16, that was that time when Mayor Evilio Leonardia announced the first general community quarantine. Hindi pa
Correct.
to ECQ.
Mm-mm.
GCQ pa lang to.
GCQ.
And then 15 days later,
Later,
nag-ECQ
ECQ.
along with the province. So, but when it was announced nga may GCQ, kami sa borders.
Correct.
We were
Araman
manning
ko.
the borders. Yeah.
I was there. North,
we
Gataputamo.
were first, una nag-south kami, and then nag-north kami.
Oo,
medyo mga sa south,
nag-traffic pa, di ba? Buang ka to, di ba? Nag-live
Then
kaya
kadto
sa
naman kami
dalan.
sa mga borders like sa Murcia, for example.
Correct.
Kay
I
kami
was also
borders
there.
madigto sa going east ba yun?
And dito mo na-realize, Hans, ang pandemic, how powerful social media is. Because like us, mainstream, taya mo, di ba? Kita nagdako kita sa mainstream. Ako even, to this day, even if I vlog, I still consider myself a mainstream, di ba, na consumers ng balita. Hindi ko namiang ko kaya po yung magbasa newspaper, lantawon ko siya sa TV. Pero dito nakita mo, people, strangers, as far as Oriental, people stranded in Cebu, they would message us. As in, ang message request mo nga inbox, as in, damo, asking for help, asking kung sirado ang boundary diin ang borders. Mas doon nagdamo-damo ang obras ng journalist, hindi ka lang yan nagabalita, but you also attend to these people. You link them up with the LGUs, with the provincial government, and all the other agencies na makabulig sa ila, di ba? Because people expect from journalists so much.
Yeah.
To the point na they think we can solve all their problems, and feeling mo, blood, you don't wanna fail them.
Yeah, I think ka-beautiful sa mga sharings ninyo tanan. And I think one of the best indicators siguro kung ano gid ang risk nga ginatubang ta is, you remember we had media colleagues nga nagka-positive.
Oo.
And in fact, one of them
Is you.
well, one of them is our crew. Well, and we had to quarantine
Sa amon,
for...
walang positive
May
man.
positive man, no? And we had to quarantine for 14 days. Pati kami, because we were exposed to that crew member, of course, hindi na siya lipod. It's our video unit head. Pero, these are risks eh. Kagdason mo, baga nga kung nakulbaan ka mo lang nga mag-journalist ka pa.
Siyempre, you enter the realm with open eyes. Di ba? It's part of the package. Hindi ka ba pwede kung mag-journalist? Excuse lang ko dahil, ma-leave ko, kay may COVID, di
kulbaan
ba?
pa sa kadaw.
Or you get assigned to the mountain screen. Low resistance mo. You don't say that. Go ka lang nang go because you know what you've signed up for.
Thank you, kids.
Basta lang din
But, before we end this, kanasigla sa oras, no? But we are about to end our pilot episode for Femme Fatale. This is Miss Kim Jamelo. Do you have final words? Do you have something to say to our audience before we end?
Yeah, siguro because, I'm here sitting with two journalists and because sa natabo, we know with the shutdown and everything, I think it's just high time that we really also appreciate the people nga nag-risk nilang lives and actually their families as well. We need to thank them and of course, we need to appreciate the lens ng ginaagyan nila para mahatag lang nila sa atin ang mga balita. So, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Miss Yasa. Yes.
By the way, before ko na ihambal ang parting words ko, don't worry, may guests na kami sa next episode. They might think, wala si Bilay si Nanay. But the truth is, pwede man, kami na may story, mga 1 hour, sobrago. But we've lined up guests, okay? Don't worry, hindi kami ang may istorya lang. Anyway, anong mga takeaways na sa pandemic? One, it's always the basics. We've all learned to go back to the basics. Gin-relearn ta na, di ba?
Yes.
Nagbalik kita. We've also relearned the need to preserve and protect the environment. Di ba?
True yan.
Na-realize ta nga, wala gali isang makapaumpaw sa aton stress and all, but it's the environment. People went back to nature, etc. What else? That in the midst of a crisis, we should not only focus on ourselves, but we should think of those also who need help. So, bisan ano kagamay nga bulig mahatag mo, whether in goods man na siya, or, di ba? Words of encouragement, kung kay sino na ang kinahanglan, that can save people di ba? Nga madalman sila sa depression, or that they can also be motivated to keep going when they see you, di ba? Nga struggling ka man, but you're telling them, no, it's okay, we can make it. And then what else? That we, especially mga babae, di ba? Damo mga asawa na dulaan trabahong bana. Di ba?
True.
It also should have well, this pandemic should make us realize that we women have to also be economically, di ba? Empowered.
Correct.
Because you'll never know. You'll never know. See, sino nagpinsar ang pandemic ang matabo? Sino nagpinsar ang travel industry matumba? 'Di ba? Maamusin ni kaapektado. Sino ang magpinsar nga kadamo sa kabataan wala na nakapa-enroll kay ang tatay nila nadulaan trabaho. So kita nga mga babae, kita nga mga asawa or the partners or kung ano da tawag mo, we should also be as financially independent and as madiskarte as the men in our lives.
In fact, namin, di ba ang sinamin?
Tanang
Miss Yasmin, nanalangin yung itrahan yan para nag-bake siya because she's already a good baker. So, why not nga negosyable
Oo naman, di ba? Therapy pa, di ba? O, mas stress ka, sa mag-grant ka na sa Facebook. O, luto mo, di ba? Pag nabaligya mo, may kwarta ka. O, pag may kwarta ka, may panindahan ka. I mean, ang mga krisis sa kaboy, hindi mo na iya mahambal nga, hindi ka na kamo hasta lang mo 2019, quota na ko. No, they will always be there. But the thing is, ikaw, how will you handle them, di ba? Di ba, Bes?
Yes, thank you to these two really beautiful and empowered women. Ang ako niya take away lang before we end, no? Kulang niya diyang 30 minutes.
Oo,
okay.
kulang.
But anyway, yeah, that's true. Sometimes ang crisis ang determine kung ano gid ang strength sa isa ka tao. Your strength will only be determined by how well you handle the crisis,
Right,
and never make the crisis an excuse to be, sorry, can I say the word, an asshole? True. Because it's always going to be you that's going to take accountability for what's going to happen to your life.
Correct.
Nobody's going to take accountability for the shitty things that's going on.
Yeah.
I said the S word is not allowed. Okay, anyway. Ako pa lang producer.
Okay.
But you know, at the end of the day, it's always going to be about you. You're not going to be relying on. You're
Right.
not going to be relying on other people. You're not going to be just forever relying on other people's goodwill. But sometimes you also have to follow your own strength, and that is why we have Femme Fatale, because we are celebrating women and their strength.
Yeah.
Thank you. This is me, Hannah Papasin.
Kim Jamelo.
And Yasmin Pascual Dormido.
And you have just watched the first episode, the pilot episode of our talk show for women, by women, about women, Femme
Femme
Fatale.
Fatale.